Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, Yvonne Crayer, Leigh, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Leigh, Yvonne, and myself, with the Realm of Beings, eagerly invite you to join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts now.
Big hello to all of our listeners. You are joining us on Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Leigh, and I'm joined by Gretta and Yvonne, and as always, the Realm of Beings. And we're very happy to be on Transformation Talk Radio every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. You might hear the term Realm of Beings and ask yourself who they are and how do they operate in our lives. We go over this, if you're new to Shifting Impressions, we go over this in great detail in our introductory episode. So please check that one if you have any questions about who we are or what we're doing here. These conversations are about examining your life and your creation of reality. They will help you to shift your impressions and understand what you're creating in your life and how it shows up. Each week, Yvonne and Gretta and I discuss a quotation that Gretta has graciously downloaded from the Realm of Beings. And this week, we will be working with and discussing the quotation, "Condemn no one, because you are one with whom you condemn." Ladies, hello, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. What a great quote. Go ahead, Leigh.
I was just asking, where shall we start on this one?
I think to start with the concept of separation, because that quote to me is alluding to the fact that there is no separation, and that people, we separate ourselves constantly by various ways. We separate by economic levels. We separate by way of culture. We separate by way of philosophy. We separate by way of religions. I don't care what the religion is or what the philosophy is. We separate by ethnicity. We separate by cultural frameworks. We separate ourselves by way of countries. So here, this experience is all focused on the lesson of separation. So I think if we start there.
Yes, because one of the things, amongst many, one of the points we're trying to drive home in this podcast, right, is oneness. That although, because of those many, many separations that Gretta has listed in this illusion, we are actually all one. And, I think that's an important aspect that the realm wants us to, really speak to in this podcast. Do you agree, Gretta?
I think so. I know they've spent a long time, years, dealing with unconditional love. That was that. And then now they're starting to move into what is oneness. And we as humanoids, it's very difficult for us to understand that. There's really no one here, including myself, who truly, truly understands oneness. So we're going to attempt to tackle it a little bit today. When I say a little bit, that's about what I'll be doing is a little bit, because oneness is a huge conception to really, really grasp. It's very challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes up all the time, like the whole, I mean, I think it's always good to take a pause and kind of reflect on these concepts that we talk about are so sometimes hard to really pin down. But when you reflect upon like a real life example, like it sort of makes it like for me anyway, a little bit easier. And this morning before the podcast, I was in my regular job life and was talking. I work in the real estate realm and world, and one of the agents I've been working with recently kind of on the same page with me in the fact that, you know, like my buyer, my seller, we don't look at it as mine or mine, whatever. It's more like we're coming together, you know, somebody has an intention to buy a property and somebody has the intention to sell it. And like everything else can sort of get in the way of that happening. But if we come to a realization from the very beginning that we do want to come together and we want to accomplish this goal, then there's no separation because it's one common goal. And I think like for me, like this example sort of, you know, I was like thinking about it for a while because, you know, we were going to talk about it on the podcast. Like it kind of like shows a lot of demonstrates a lot of what we want to talk about through the quote. But, you know, coming, I imagine like in this particular example, this transaction, everybody coming to the table, you know, and there's all kinds of pieces. There's home inspectors and appraisers and the bank and the conveyance, just so many people involved in that transaction that everybody has to be on the same page in order for it to come together. And if everybody behind the scenes would just think this is, you know, we're all one, we all want to accomplish the same goal, it would make everything a little bit easier. Because I've been involved in other situations where it's like, you know, people get their ego involved and then things just fall apart and blow up. But then also that gives me a chance to say like, what is it about that person or that situation that I'm being reflected in that, like what part of me that I haven't accepted, which kind of goes through this quote. We don't want to condemn anybody, because if we do, we're condemning ourselves. So yeah, just recognize whatever it is in that other person or those other people, that's present in yourself. And when you can accept it fully, try to understand why it's there in you, sort of this like this energy, this, it's like an opening where everything sort of clears and you just come to a deeper you know, a deeper love of self or a deeper acceptance. So yeah, that's kind of how I see this. It takes a bit, does take a bit to stop like looking on the outside and like kind of like bring it back, like look in the mirror and say, what part of me am I not healed? What part of me is wounded that I can, you know, kind of look on the outside and blame people. But it's possible, yeah, through acceptance and love.
Mhm. I think too, I'm going to add that word unconditional to what you said.
Yes, that's important.
Yes, because unconditional love is a much stronger sense of just love itself. Most people feel that unconditional love is just, I'm accepting you to be who you are, but without really understanding who the person is. And that comes into oneness, because we've said this, and I know that it's challenging to think of it, and people who are extremely religious, who have religious, really strong religious beliefs, will find it very difficult, to understand that they are the force.
Yeah.
And
they're so attached to that outside figurehead, whatever we want to call it, God, and that's authoritative, all-knowing, and again, like it's really hard because I was raised in a very religious environment, like a lot of people, and it's hard to break out of that pattern. It takes work. Yeah.
Right. And to see yourself and to see each person as a divine entity is very challenging for people to see that. If you see somebody on the street who's homeless, and to say that that homeless person is the force, is very tremendous to be able to think that way. To think that every plant and that the earth itself is the force. Everything is the force because that's all that there is the force. Everything else we talk about, the spaces that we exist in as illusions, of which they are. But one thing that is not an illusion, it is that the force does exist, and we are the force, because we are everything. See, that's one of the beginnings of oneness, is to understand that. I give an example. I tell people, well, let's take the three of us. If we get rid of the physical bodies that we have and all the other bodies that are attached to this physical body, we're only going to see energy. That's all you're going to see. And when you see the energy is going to look alike. You won't be able to tell the difference. Who's Yvonne, who's Gretta, who's Leigh, because it'll all look alike. And then when you take it into a deeper understanding that first we were three people, but in actuality we're not. We're one. We're one. We're actually one. So it's to see the oneness within the three of us. But in this, which some people call the third dimension, okay, it's illusionary. Everything is an illusion. My glasses on my face, that's an illusion, because you're creating. I put them on my face, that's true. And you recognize glasses. So your mind is working and say, okay, Gretta's got glasses on her face. You see. But each person has a different perception of what my glasses look like on my face, because it's the perception that runs, which assists in the illusion. So if we can understand that everyone is the force, and that we are one with the force because we are it, and so is the other person, then there is no need to blame. There's no need to condemn somebody. I think that's what that quote is alluding to, that when you start to condemn, you're really condemning yourself because you're one with that person. If you're criticizing that person and saying that they're no good, they're a failure, and various other things that people say, then you're not recognizing, you said that person is this, but you don't realize that before you can say what that person is, you have to be in that space yourself. If that person is a failure and you're saying to that person, you're a failure, then it's to recognize that actually you are sitting in the spot of failure. Otherwise, you cannot see it in the next person. It's impossible. I had a lady once that she was kind of upset and she said, Greta, I never see anything wrong with anybody. And she thought something was wrong with that. I told her, I said, that is so wonderful. If you can't see something wrong with somebody, then that means you don't see anything wrong with yourself. It's got to be in you first, always. So when that quote says, you are one with whom you condemn, yeah, you're condemning yourself when you try to say what somebody is. You know, I'm forever telling people, watch what you say.
Yeah.
Or you've told me about you. You know, some people try and have come and said, well, Greta, you know, you're so and so and so and so and so and so. You know, I tell them, I said, thank you for telling me who you are. Yeah, because that's what that is. The only thing you're doing is telling me who you are. That's it. Nothing else. Yeah. Go ahead, Leigh. I saw that sigh. That means you're getting ready to say something.
I was just wanted to thank you for, sort of bringing this conversation. I maybe took it to the place of oneness and unity, which is so huge, right? And you started the podcast out talking about all our divisions and whatnot. And as you're talking and I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking like, oh, boy, I have a lot of work to do, number one. And secondly, it's just, because we're in this 3D world, right? These concepts of oneness and, are wonderful to think of, and imagine and try to bring down into here, right? But I really do feel like in the break, in our next segment, after the break, we should talk more about, because I think it's such an important point to maybe drive home to our listeners, and I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks now on the podcast. I feel like we just keep looping back to, the same subject. We're maybe approaching it from different angles, yet it's, pointing to the same thing, that, that point of we're always looking outside. We're always like trying to divide and separate based on this, that, and the other thing, but the point is, like, we always have to try and bring it back to ourself. So when you were speaking and you were talking about what you see in another is actually what is inside of you is huge, huge. And I don't think we can talk about that enough. So we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to pick that part of our conversation up and see, again, what we can learn from that, how we can change that, and how we can shift our impression, not only of others, the other that isn't actually there, but ourselves. So keep listening and we'll be right back. Thank you for listening to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings.
Welcome back, listeners. We are on Transformation Talk Radio, and the name of our podcast is Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. Yvonne, I'm here today with Gretta, Leigh, and very soon we'll be joined by the Realm of Beings. And every week we gather together around our virtual kitchen table, have some tea, coffee, and water, whatever we want, and talk about these quotes that are channeled and downloaded from the realm through Gretta. And today we're picking apart this quote, and it is, "Condemn no one, because you are one with whom you condemn." So the first segment, we spent quite a bit of time on oneness and unity. And Leigh brought up some good points right before the break. So maybe you want to continue with your conversation here, Leigh, and, move forward here with this quote.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just saying, as just an important reminder, I mean, how do we do that? I found myself, we do this podcast, and please understand, listeners, everyone, I am a student here. I am learning. I am learning every minute along with all of you who are listening, because I have been living this life, a bit differently than these principles we speak of. So there's a lot that I need to unwind and let go of. So please know I'm just a student as well as all of you. And I found myself today, as a matter of fact, wanting to project outwardly and maybe not take responsibility for some things that are going on in my life that I've clearly created, but it's so much easier to just like push out there. However, I'm at the point where at least now I can notice that I'm doing that, pat myself on the back for it. And so, Gretta, when we find ourselves doing that, looking externally and, complaining about someone else's, our judgment that someone else is doing something wrong, how do we unwind that and, stop or change it or shift it?
First, you have to look at yourself. And that's a biggie.
Mm-hmm.
That is really the big part of that when something is going awry in your life and you're experiencing it, then note, as we've always said in this podcast, that you've created that space.
Right.
You've created, the other person is just supporting you in that space where you are at. So it's not to look at the person, because the person is just supporting you.
Right.
It's to look at yourself. Why did I create this? I think in the last podcast or the one before that, we talked about two important words. One is how I'm going to learn my lesson. And then the other thing is, when we create the experience, is why. So how and why are two important words in any language in which it's spoken. How and why. So how do you do that? Is to be open and to really say, let me look at myself. If you want to change, you've got to look inside. You've got to look at you, because otherwise it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. You're going to see yourself doing the same old thing, meeting the same old people, doing the same old. And then you're going to be saying, why do I keep meeting men like this? Or why do I keep meeting the same woman over and over again? I can't find somebody that I want to love me, So we look outside. We don't look inside. It's to say, well, what am I doing? How am I thinking about, what am I thinking about a relationship? How am I thinking a relationship should work? Am I just complacent with this? And inside this relationship, I'm not loving myself. See, when we're in a relationship, sometimes we look at the other person. I know I've been there. I've done that. Woe is me. That person didn't do a doggone thing to me. I did it to myself. If I get angry, I'm angry at that person because of what that person said to me. That's on me, because the person can only speak to me by way of where I am, by way of where I am. You know, I was at a school, I was teaching school, and the children, I swear, from not the preschool children, but the starting with kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. If they got angry at somebody, they called somebody a B. You're a B. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, I'm referring to the word that represents a female dog, because I know we can't say it on the air. I wonder if I can spell it for those people who miss that. But anyway, it's a derogatory word. And finally, I got tired. I started teaching all the children, because I had the whole school. I said, look, before you call somebody a B or a female dog, you've got to be that yourself. He said, oh, no, I'm not. I said, well, that's the only way you know. That's the only way you know. You got to be it to be able to see it. So once that got through, everybody stopped. There was no more. Everybody in the whole school stopped calling each other that. They really didn't. That was about 400 and some children. But get this, when a new child came into the family or the school community and used that word, they came running to me. Miss Chamberlain, the new girl said so-and-so, or the new boy said so-and-so. So I said, well, what did you say? He said, we told her, or we told him, you've got to be that first before you can see it in us. You know, so they started from that premise. Just children understanding that concept. We as adults try and fight that concept because we don't want to recognize that we're the person that we're actually talking about. You see, that's why it says in that quote, you know, watch yourself. Because when you're condemning somebody, the only person you're really condemning is you. Yeah. Somebody's going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think as adults, again, I'm speaking for myself, but I can see it in a lot of other people too. Like we grow up unconsciously, just kind of doing things rotely because our parents did it and their parents did it. And, you know, that's what they tell you to do in school. And in some way, you just become or continue to be that unconscious child that something wounds you. So then you're constantly trying to just like protect that wounding. And that's why like you don't want to, it's too painful maybe to open that up and see what's in there and explore it, which is, you know, when you do, you never know. You find some beautiful things that, you know, open up your life to other possibilities, other perspectives. But yeah, I know for me, like I've been contemplating some of these shadows that have followed me, have been part of me for a long, long time. And one of them is, and I think I might have talked about it before, is intolerance. And so like I've had like starting to have a relationship with the concept or the thought form of intolerance. And before it was so easy because I can just clearly see it in, oh, they're so-and-so, they're so intolerant, and just blaming this one and all over the place. But then it's sort of like a big funnel, like it's everybody else's fault, you know, this intolerance. And there's other shadows, of course, too. But then when you bring it down, the funnel keeps getting narrower and narrower and narrower. And finally you go inside and you're like, okay, intolerance, why are you here? Like, what are you trying to teach me? And, you know, obviously you see the lessons, like they're the how, and then you start asking yourself why. And then it's, for me, again, it goes back to like going deeper inside and recognizing that, you know, I am the divinity and I deserve to love myself unconditionally. And I think that's really where it is. But the relationships are are there. Like, it's not just with another person. The relationships can be with anything, ideas, thoughts, shadows. And I've been also working on my relationship with food and my body in terms of exercising, trying to recognize that, yeah, anything I put in my body, I consume. It could be a loving act or a non-loving act. So I'm trying to really be conscious of what I eat and what I drink. And also, I talked about last week, I think, about my exercise program and my yoga practice, which is going well because I'm honoring that I deserve that time. Like, it's just an hour out of the day, but I do deserve it. And by going on this mat and working on my body, no matter, I could sit half the class out and just lay there because I'm really out of shape right now. I'm experiencing that, but I know that just by being there, it's an act of kindness and love towards myself. So yeah, relationships go everywhere, not just with another person. So it's my little.
And also, in comment to what you said, don't see yourself as out of shape.
Yeah, that's
See
true.
yourself as in shape.
In shape. Yes.
Right.
Good point. That's a very good point. So yeah, I have been working on that idea. However, it obviously I spoke it out loud. So there's still more work to be done to recognize it, because if it was completely healed, I wouldn't have said that, right? I would have just said I'm experiencing some tightness in my lower back, but I realized that that's temporary and that I'm working towards, again, unity with, no separation in me. No, that's kind of the recognition.
Yeah, because you want to always focus on what you want,
Mm-hmm.
not focusing on things that you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
It's the focus, because the focus tells the energy which way to go. And the energy, which is also the force, assists you in creation of your reality. So if you're focusing on being out of shape, or you're focusing on, like some people I know focus on, well, I'm in debt. I'm in debt. Then when you focus on I am in debt, then the energy is going to say, oh, wants more debt. Okay, we'll give you more debt. That's what it does.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've been there, done that. Yeah.
So whatever you speak, you're going to get it. So when
your unconscious is constantly doing, like, working towards manifesting what you've been thinking about and giving fuel. Like we said, your emotions, you can get so caught up. Like, again, my example of intolerance, I'm like intolerant of the intolerant. So, I keep giving that more energy. And finally, when I just took a break from it, I was like, what is this thing that's going on here? And pause and sit back. I was like, oh, that's in me. I'm the one who is experiencing intolerance. And then I was like, why? Why am I doing that? Why am I behaving like that? Why am I projecting onto another person? And honestly, it just changes everything. It opens so much up when you can just pause and do that. So, ladies, we are coming upon, we're not quite there, but we're getting ready to end our second segment and take our break and come upon the conversation with the realm now. So we have any closing comments here in segment 2? Leigh, we haven't heard from you in a bit, so I don't know if you have something to add to this.
I was actually just looking at our notes and I saw this pathway from condemnation to acceptance, to understanding, to unconditional love. And I think that seems like a viable path, right? We have to start somewhere. If we can recognize that we're condemning another and then say, oh, there's something, whatever I'm seeing out there is within. And then maybe, as you were saying, Yvonne, sort of, maybe allow that, like, okay, you can recognize that there's this, whatever it may be in you, but accept that it's there, right? I mean, pushing it away or trying to say, no, denial, right? That doesn't help anything. Then that understanding that, why is it there? What is it trying to show me? And if you can just embrace it, because a couple of weeks ago we said everything that we are creating is for our good, right? There's a lesson in that, that hard exterior contains some fruit of truth and lesson. And that's what we were looking for. And maybe every single thing is about understanding, like you also said earlier, that we are divine and we do deserve to unconditionally love this and what's here and what's showing up. I don't know, is that the lesson in everything, Gretta?
Unconditional love and
Yes.
oneness, appreciation. But you know what? People sometimes will, and you made such an excellent example of this in statements, because it's that we want to appreciate others. That's true. We want to love others. That's true. But sometimes we forget to love ourselves and to appreciate ourselves. So my last thing would be to say, and I've said it before, fall in love with yourself. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's really good advice, and thank you for adding that. And we're at the point where we are going to get ready to hear from the realm of beings. So we're going to jump off and take a very quick break, and stay tuned, stay with us. I'm Yvonne. I'm here with Leigh, Gretta, and we'll be joined by the realm in just a couple minutes. And we're here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Pacific. And the name of our podcast is Conversations with the Realm of Beings, Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, welcome back to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. We've reached the point in the podcast where the Realm of Beings directly weighs in on what we've been chatting about for the last 45 minutes. So let's see what they have to say. Realm, are you with us?
Yes, we're here.
Well, today we've been discussing your quotation, condemn no one because you are one with whom you condemn. What more do you have to add to what we've been talking about today?
I think it's that people must understand that love of self. Love of self. Because when you love yourselves, you're going to be practicing it. So when you practice it with yourself, you're practicing it with others as well. You see, if you can't practice love within yourself, unconditional love within yourself, then you're going to find it very difficult to practice it with others. And consequently, you'll find it very easy to, what would you say that? Create experiences or support their experiences in not loving themselves. So you can get into that process of condemnation, you see. I don't like you because you're such and such. I don't like your personality. Not realizing that when you're looking at the person saying, I don't like your personality, you're really talking about yourself. Because that's the only person you know. You cannot know others because you don't know what the lessons are that they chose to learn. You can't say that a man or a woman who practices what you call prostitution is a quote unquote bad person. You don't know why that person chose that how, because you don't know what their lesson is. Therefore, you'll never know who anybody is, even your children. Because you'd have to learn to say, what is their lesson? And you're not going to know that. Not unless you go back to prior to their incarnation. Then you can see it. But other than that, you won't know what all the lessons that they have to learn. This is a place of lessons. And one of the lessons is condemnation, separation. So there's really no need for either one of those things. But there's so much separation because inside, get this now, Leigh and Yvonne, inside condemnation is separation. It's right there inside of it, that concept. In order to condemn, I must see you separate from me. Because that's what gives me the strength to condemn you. Because I'm just condemning you. I'm not condemning myself. As so people think. Because they don't understand oneness. So I don't want to accept that serial killer as being one with me. That person is heinous. That person has done quote unquote bad things to people. That person has hurt people. But we are one with that individual. That individual chose personality, characteristics that is helping him or her learn a lesson that they have to learn. That's their how. That's their how. And that's okay if that's what they've chosen. Because the bottom line, when you get past all of this, we're the force. Every last one of us, regardless of what universe you live in, regardless of what planet you live on. You could be in universe number 585. It doesn't matter. We're one with everything that the force has created and placed into existence. We are one because everything, there's nothing in this experience but the force. Everything else is an illusion, including the bodies that you occupy. You have control of your body. You want it small, make it small. You want to put some fat on it, put some fat on it. It's all up to you. It's up to you what type of existence you want to create for yourself.
Realm.
Yes.
What is the workaround to that? I just want to roll back a second. You were talking about earlier, we see someone who we deem a murderer and we say they're bad, they're heinous, they're this and that. So if we're saying those things, I guess what we were talking about earlier, those things are also in us. So what is the workaround to that? I mean, is the workaround to just like completely try to suspend your judgment, just see people as they are? We hear about these crimes and so, and people doing things that we personally maybe don't agree with. So is it just that we do our best to just look at the person and think that is their space and those are their lessons, and I am in no position to judge it?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Because that a person who kills somebody, when we look at, we say that that's a heinous situation, but we don't know why. Well, let me say this to you. If somebody kills somebody, first of all, death does not exist. The only thing that's happening is that the person that goes through that process of being killed moves to the transitional portal. That's all. Next thing, no one can do anything to you ever. So if somebody kills you, that is because you had decided that it was time for you to move into the transitional portal, and you chose how you were going to move into the transitional portal.
Right. That's just going back to the support, create, support. You chose a how, and that person was your how.
Absolutely.
They supported you in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And moving on. Oh, Yvonne, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just gives me a little bit of pause because, of course, there's a lot of things going on around us in this world of 3D. And right now in the United States, mass shootings are very prevalent. So, Realm, can you speak and give us a little more information about this? Because, like when you listen to the media, they say that it's the United States only that has these statistics of, shootings, multiple mass shootings regularly, and other countries in the world do not. So what's going on here? Like, why is that?
Your media gives you only what they want you to hear. There are things happening all over the world, things that you don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing is that it's set up here for you to do what? What does it do? It produces separation.
Fear.
Yes, and fear is a very good way of supporting separation. So so when just that big thing or little thing, depending on how you see it, produces separation, then it's helping you look at the people who are doing it. You see, they are that particular group of people. Are they the ones that are going around shooting everybody? Then you look at it and say, well, those people look at them. We don't want to be with those people. We don't want to be around those people. We don't want our children to go to school with those people. And that's what has happened in this country. This country of the United States has a concept of those people. I don't want to be with those people. If their sexual preferences are different, some religions say those are bad people. They're not going to go to heaven. They're bad.
How can we change that?
You can only change yourself. You are not responsible to change the entire world. You are responsible to change you. If each person worked on themselves, to change themselves, to see the force in everyone, regardless of what personality they are being shown. Can you imagine? I would never go into a point of condemnation if I know that you're the force. And if I condemn you, I condemn myself. I would just say, you've created this lesson for yourself. That is the lesson you've created. Yes.
That's that pathway to acceptance realm. And we only have a few minutes left in these final minutes. Last week, you were telling us that some practice of unconditional self-love is don't wait for someone to buy you flowers. Get them for yourself. In the last 2 minutes, what other things can we do to facilitate and foster unconditional love within?
Do something. We always tell Gretta to tell people to do something for themselves. Show love to yourself. Do something every day that brings you joy, that brings you peace. Honor yourself. Don't dishonor yourself. Honor yourself. When you honor yourself, you're honoring the divinity that is you. You are honoring the force. People pray and say, I love you, God. The force is that which created God. Love the force, love God, as you say. But notice that you are God yourself. Honor yourselves. Each person honor self. You can change any kind of lesson that you said that you were going to try out. You can change it. If one of the lessons was to learn how to be peaceful. So you created, some people believe that you must have the opposite to be able to appreciate the other. In other words, you have to have cold in order to appreciate hot. You have to have hot in order to appreciate cold. Nah. You see, you don't have to experience being unloved so that you can experience being loved. Treat yourself with kindness.
And on those final words, we wrap up another episode of Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. Thank you for listening until we create each other again.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with Leigh, Yvonne, the Realm, and me, Gretta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multi-dimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at TransformationTalkRadio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.